The first time I went to my girlfriend's house, my future mother-in-law handed me $10,000 and told me to stay away from her daughter. Her bitter mockery stung. A poor motherless boy like me could never be good enough for her, Clara. I was dreaming, if I thought I could marry into their family. I felt the Cartier necklace in my pocket, originally intended as a gift for my future mother-in-law. I hesitated, wondering if I should ask my dad to fire Clara's father tomorrow. 6 months ago, I had a huge fight with my dad when I refused the arranged date he set up for me. He cut off my allowance and punished me by making me work as a waiter at one of his restaurants to experience how difficult life can be. One day, as I was pouring tea for a customer, he started giving me a hard time for no reason. He complained the tea was too cold and too hot, demanding I keep replacing it. Before I could roll my eyes, Clara, who was dining at a nearby table, stood up to defend me. That's how I met Clara. Later, because she was beautiful and completely my type and we had similar values, she naturally became my girlfriend. We dated for 6 months and things were going well. The tricky part was, I never told her my true identity. She only knew my mom had passed away when I was young and that my dad worked at the restaurant. She probably assumed my dad was a chef. Several times she said my dad's cooking skills must be amazing and she'd love to try his food someday. I never told her about my education, but seeing me busy waiting tables at the restaurant, she guessed I probably hadn't gone to college. She was very considerate and never asked me much about it. She even comforted me, saying education doesn't matter that much in society, doesn't only look at degrees these days. Some lies once started snowball from small lies to big ones. Impossible to stop. Because I didn't have a car and the restaurant closed at 10 p.m. Every night, rain or shine, she would drive over at 10:05 to pick me up after work. My co-workers always looked at me enviously. Sitting in the passenger seat, looking at her beautiful profile, I struggled internally before finally gathering the courage to ask, Clara, what would you do if you found out I lied to you someday? With her hands on the steering wheel, Clara replied seriously, Abe, you know I hate deception more than anything, but I trust that you would never do that. Her words completely choked back what I was about to say. I wanted to tell her that I wasn't really a waiter. My dad wasn't a chef, but the CEO of a publicly traded restaurant company. I was in agony, unable to tell her the truth. If I did, would this relationship I'd carefully maintained come to an abrupt end? I'd had plenty of girls chase after me before, but I felt they weren't my type. To some extent, many of them only wanted to get close to me because of my family background. Now that I finally found a girl I liked who wasn't with me because of my family's wealth, I really wanted to cherish her. Late at night, sitting in my 4,000-square-foot house, I clutched a beer bottle and poured out my troubles to my friend who was experienced in relationships. My buddy took a sip of red wine and said calmly, Liam, don't be stupid. Most girls hate being deceived. If she finds out you hid this from her, she'll think you were testing her, assuming she was a gold digger. It shows you don't trust her. She'll definitely get mad at you. Is that really true? I rolled my eyes at my seemingly unreliable friend. He stated with certainty, Trust me. Hearing that, I panicked even more. My buddy went on, giving me advice. Besides, she's willing to be with you, even though she thinks your family is poor. It shows she's not the type to look down on people for being poor. You can also use this chance to test her. If she really is after your money, you can break up with her. You won't lose anything. So I had no choice but to continue carefully concealing my background from my girlfriend, making sure not to let anything slip until today, when she said she wanted to bring me home to meet her parents. My heart skipped a beat. I felt so guilty. I was a complete liar in front of her. Clara, actually, before I could finish, she had already handed me two beautifully wrapped gift boxes from behind. Liam, bring these when I take you to meet my mom tonight. I picked them out specially. My mom will definitely like them. You really don't need to. I'll prepare gifts myself to meet your mom. I'm not that clueless, I said helplessly, rubbing my forehead. Liam, you work so hard at the restaurant. How could I let you spend money when I bring you to meet my parents? Clara said irritably. Then, worried she had hurt my pride, she added, "From now on, my money is your money. Don't be so particular about it." Looking at her serious expression, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That evening, I especially asked the manager for time off to get off work early. Clara drove to pick me up and take me to her house. Seeing I was still wearing my usual simple t-shirt and black sweatpants, she frowned slightly, wanting to say something but holding back. "What's wrong?" I asked after getting in the car. "Nothing," she said as she drove. "By the way, when you meet my mom later, just put up with whatever happens. My mom has a really bad temper." It wasn't until I got to her house that I understood what she meant. I had no idea just how bad her mother's temper really was. As soon as we arrived, I was carrying the 2 gift boxes and hadn't even stepped inside when her mom, Mrs. Henderson, pushed me back out. "As expected from a poor family, you have a stench about you, Mrs. Henderson," said arrogantly, with her arms crossed. "What? I had just showered. I should only smell like my expensive body wash." Clara sighed and quickly tried to stop her mom. "Mom, what are you doing, Mrs.?" Henderson wrinkled her nose in disgust and snorted coldly. "What do you see in this poor boy? Your Uncle John's son comes from a wealthy family and has a great education. How is he not better than this guy? If you marry Tom, Uncle John said he'd not only give a bride price, but also gift us a house and a car. So that's what this was about. I was being looked down on for being poor. The guy could give Clara a house and car. I wanted to say that my dad promised me that if I agreed to go on arranged dates, he'd give me a villa downtown and an entire company when I got married. Isn't the long-term value created by a company much better than just a house and car?" I took a deep breath, tried my best to maintain a smile, and replied calmly, "Mrs. Henderson, are you planning to sell Clara in exchange for a house and car?" Hearing that, Mrs. Henderson's face instantly turned as black as the bottom of a pot. "You uncultured boy from a poor family. You have no manners at all. Such a petty mindset of the poor." I almost laughed out loud. If I really was a poor kid, I might have been infuriated by Mrs. Henderson's words and actions, but fortunately I wasn't. My family was extremely wealthy, with over a dozen companies waiting for me to inherit. As a result, her vigorous attempts at contempt had absolutely no effect on me. "Liam, didn't you promise me you'd put up with it when we came?" Clara was also getting angry and could only try to mediate both sides. "What are you saying?" "It's Liam's first time here." Mrs. Henderson looked me up and down with disdain. "Liam, right? A poor guy like you who doesn't even have a car isn't worthy of entering our home. You know Tom drives a Rolls Royce every time he comes." "Oh, forget it. You probably don't even know what kind of luxury car that is." I'm wasting my breath. She took out 2 blue disposable shoe covers from the shoe cabinet and threw them at my feet. "Look at the rags you're wearing. If it weren't for Clara's sake, I wouldn't even let you in today. Put these on. Don't wear our slippers. You might not care, but we're worried about catching some kind of foot fungus." I really wanted to tell her that everything I was wearing was from authentic domestic brands, not cheap knockoffs at all. And even if my clothes were inexpensive, the quality and comfort of domestic brands is extremely high. Although my dad owns over a dozen companies, he built it all from scratch through hard work. Since I was young, he taught me not to be wasteful, not to compare myself to others, to be humble, and to love our country. In fact, he'd rather spend large sums of money every year donating to help kids in mountain villages go to school than waste a penny buying a bunch of overhyped foreign luxury brands. But I held all these words back. After all, I like Mrs. Henderson's daughter. Not wanting to make things difficult for Clara, I didn't clash head-on with Mrs. Henderson. In the past, I definitely would have criticized her money-grubbing behavior. I smiled and took out a bottle of waterless hand sanitizer from my canvas bag, voluntarily pouring some on my hands and washing them thoroughly. "Mrs. Henderson, now that I've disinfected my hands too, are you satisfied? But the recent pandemic, The restaurant arranged for employees to regularly wash and disinfect their hands for safety. I've always carried this waterless alcohol hand sanitizer with me. The roundabout tactic left Mrs. Henderson at a loss for words, as if she had punched cotton. She composed herself and let Clara escort her to the living room. Putting on the shoe covers, I finally got a chance to look around the Henderson home. A standard 1,000 square foot 3-bedroom layout with a conventional Chinese style. Better than an average family, but far inferior to my home. Mrs. Henderson, sitting on the sofa, noticed me looking around. She probably thought I was like a country bumpkin seeing the big city for the first time. She couldn't help but mock me. "Liam, you've probably never lived in such a nice house, right? This house is worth several $1,000,000 now. You're from out of state." Living in a rented place, is it even 300 square feet? Probably not even as big as our master bedroom. Glancing towards the master bedroom, it looked to be about 200 square feet. Not showing any reaction, I nodded in agreement. Yes, there's quite a big difference. Except the difference was that their home was far inferior to mine. Mrs. Henderson raised her proud chin and casually pointed to a painting on the wall. "Do you know how much this painting is worth? This artist's works are extremely rare and valuable. It's only because of Clara's father's connections that we were able to buy a piece by this artist." I looked over and saw it was signed by the famous local artist Bill White. Dated March of this year. As it happened, this artist had previously collaborated with my dad's company and gifted our family several of his earlier works. He specialized in landscape paintings, which were completely different from his portrait on the wall in terms of both style and color scheme. Even as an amateur art enthusiast, I could tell at a glance that these two styles could not possibly be by the same person. This portrait was a fake. Seeing that I remained silent, Mrs. Henderson thought I was pretending to appreciate the art, like a proud peacock. She said smugly, "Clara's father paid over $100,000 for this painting. I heard your dad is a chef and you're just a waiter carrying plates. I bet you and your dad combined don't even make $100,000 in a year." I turned my gaze slowly towards Mrs. Henderson, smile forming in my eyes. "Mrs. Henderson, I've heard you've been a stay-at-home mom for many years, so you may not be very familiar with current salary levels across different industries in this city. I'd be happy to send you some information later to educate you. This city is one of the top-tier cities in the country, and the restaurant I work at is ranked in the top 3 on Yelp. Salary plus tips for waiters is comparable to white-collar office workers. Moreover, even an experienced chef with over 10 years of experience at an ordinary restaurant in this city would have an annual salary of over $100,000. The term stay-at-home mom instantly wiped the smile off Mrs. Henderson's face. Yes, no matter how much she tried to flaunt her wealth, the money wasn't earned by her but by Clara's father through his hard work. This had always been a sore spot for her, and she didn't like people bringing it up. Her face hardened and she started complaining to Clara before I could. "Clara, what kind of boyfriend did you find? The first time meeting your parents, he mocked your mom for being an uneducated stay-at-home mom." Clara's face showed how difficult the situation was. She could only look to me pleadingly, her eyes begging me to put up with it. I had no choice but to excuse myself and leave. Clara originally wanted to drive me back, but her mom forcefully stopped her, so she had to give up. I didn't insist on her driving me either. After all, every time she dropped me off at the group rental apartment building, I'd have to call another ride back to my own home, leaving the neighborhood. I called my buddy to come pick me up. When he heard that Clara's mom disliked me because she thought my family was poor, he was stunned. This was the first time he'd heard of someone looking down on my family for being poor. "Looks like you were right not to tell Clara about your family's real situation. Otherwise, how would you have seen what her mom is really like?" "I say, forget about the Henderson family," my friend said pointedly. I opened the car window, letting the cold wind blow in. Resting my chin on my hand, I said helplessly, "But Clara truly cares about me. She's really so good to me. I can't just throw away a 6-month relationship because I don't get along with Herman, can I? Little did I know, I was still too naive and had no idea how vicious people could be. That night Clara called me and comforted me profusely, saying Mrs. Henderson just had a difficult personality and I shouldn't take offense. Heard Ad was out of town on a business trip, but next time he'd be there to help smooth things over. I couldn't help but grumble that Mrs. Henderson wasn't just difficult. She was like an unreasonable Empress Dowager Cheesy. Clara deepened her voice to joke. Yes, I have to take care of the Empress Dowager on one side and consider the feelings of the Emperor on the other. It's so hard being stuck in the middle as the Emperor. She made me laugh and that was the end of it. But I had underestimated Mrs. Henderson. After just a few days of peace, she was ready to start causing trouble again. During my lunch break, I received a text from an unknown number. Liam, come meet me this afternoon. Don't tell Clara or you'll never be able to marry my daughter. The phone number looked familiar. I had glimpsed it in Clara's contacts before. From the tone of the message, it wasn't hard to guess it was from Mrs. Henderson. If I really wanted to marry Clara someday, I'd inevitably have to deal with Mrs. Henderson's existence. Since she had thrown down the gauntlet, I naturally couldn't back down. Without any hesitation, I immediately replied, "Okay, Mrs. Henderson." I asked the manager for the afternoon off and went home to change clothes. To avoid putting Clara in a difficult position, this time I specially picked out an Hermes jacket from my closet to wear to the meeting. When I arrived at the location, I found Mrs. Henderson sitting with a young man. He was wearing a new Louis Vuitton outfit and chatting animatedly with her over tea. "Mrs. Henderson, you didn't tell me someone else would be here," I said calmly as I sat down across from them. "Tom isn't just anyone. In my heart, a well-mannered young man like Tom is my real future son-in-law. Certain people trying to marry above their station are the outsiders." Mrs. Henderson said arrogantly, "So that's what this was about." She was trying to put me down. Before I could speak, the supposedly well-mannered young man smiled and said, This Mr. Liam is actually quite sensible. At least he knew to dress himself up this time. I wonder where he rented this designer outfit from. It must have cost him several days' wages, right?" At this point, I turned my scrutinizing gaze to carefully examine Tom's clothes, smiling faintly. "Mr. Henderson, I'm afraid you're the one experienced in renting designer clothes. That's why you automatically assume others do the same thing. You're just a chef's son. What lowly background do you have to speak nonsense in front of me?" Tom's handsome eyebrows instantly furrowed into a knot, calling me a chef's son over and over, talking about high and low status. Is this really how a true gentleman with good manners would speak? I laughed coldly. "Mr. Henderson, your panicked look right now really seems like someone who's done something guilty and got caught red-handed. Don't tell me I actually guessed right. Your clothes really are rented." Tom's jaw clenched in anger as he started spewing a string of vulgar insults. Taking advantage of the moment, I quickly texted my friend, "Do you think a real rich kid would wear rented designer clothes?" My friend quickly replied, "No way." I sent my friend Tom's name, asking him to check if any of his friends who do high-end replicas or designer rentals recognize the name. Filtering out Tom's crude language, I continued needling him. "This is a restaurant. There are plenty of chefs in the kitchen, Mr. Henderson. Since you look down on chefs so much, you'd better not enter restaurants anymore. You probably shouldn't eat any food made by chefs either. If they knew how much you despise them, they might accidentally poison you." Tom angrily grabbed Mrs. Henderson's wrist. Look at him. He doesn't know when to stop talking. He's definitely not someone who knows his place. How could Clara marry him? He's not worthy. Whether I'm worthy or not isn't for you to decide. You think you're worthy of Clara, but does Clara actually like you? I retorted. I used to be the best debater in college. When it came to verbal sparring, he was no match for me. Enough of this useless chatter. Let's get to the point, Liam. I called you here because I have something important to discuss. Mrs. Henderson waved her hand, interrupting my war of words with Tom. Yes, please go ahead, Mrs. Henderson. Out of respect for her status as Clara's mother, I forced myself to respond politely. The next second, I watched her take out a stack of cash from her purse and push it across the table towards me. Here's $10. A zero. It should cover 2 months of your wages. Leave my daughter. Earlier, when I saw her confidently reaching into her purse, I thought she was going to pull out at least $100,000 or $200,000. The result was shocking. She thought she could buy off my feelings with a mere $10,000. Tom chimed in from the side. You should be satisfied with $10,000. Break up with Clara tonight. I originally said $5. However was enough, but Auntie is too generous and kind-hearted. She rounded it up to $10,000 for you. What? Mrs. Henderson, so in your heart, your daughter is only worth a measly $10. Asaro? With $10,000 you think you can buy out your daughter's feelings? Clara would be heartbroken if she knew. I kindly reminded her. Mrs. Henderson's face changed, thinking I was being greedy. A poor boy like you who lost his mother is nowhere near good enough for my Clara. You're dreaming if you think you can marry into our family. I'm already being too generous giving you this $10,000. Hearing that, I abruptly stood up, no longer maintaining a polite tone. Mrs. Henderson, I've been respecting you as Clara's mother by calling you Mrs. Henderson, but your words have really gone too far. If you don't act like an elder, I don't mind teaching a disrespectful elder a lesson. The words, lost his mother, were incredibly vicious to someone like me who had lost my mom as a child. Was it my fault that I grew up without a mother? Who wouldn't want to have their mother by their side growing up? She was rubbing salt in my wounds. Liam, how dare you speak to Auntie like that? Be careful, or I'll tell Clara you bullied her mom. Tom was the first to react, warning me with a wary look. There are security cameras in the restaurant, and as it happens, I brought a voice recorder with me today. Feel free to tell Clara whatever you want. I'd also like her to know how the supposedly well-mannered gentleman curses when he loses his temper. I replied coolly. The previously aggressive Tom instantly deflated. Since we clearly don't see eye to eye, there's no point in continuing this conversation. With that, I stood up to leave. Exiting the restaurant, I felt the blue gift box in my pocket containing a Cartier necklace. Mrs. Henderson loved designer brands so much. I had specially bought it from the boutique at great expense to try to smooth things over, but now I felt she didn't deserve it. Just then, my phone rang. It was my friend. Liam, you guessed right. My friend who does high-end replicas said that Tom Henderson is her VIP client. He buys dozens of fake designer pieces from her every year and always tries to haggle the price down. Not only that, my friend who does designer rentals knows him too. He recently rented a new Louis Vuitton set from my friend. A flood of photos suddenly popped up in my WeChat. My friend had sent me screenshots of Tom's payments on chat records for buying fakes and renting designer clothes. I smirked. So, this Tom actually had no money and was just pretending to be rich. After saving all the photos and chat records on my phone, I told my friend everything that had happened at the restaurant. My friend immediately got angry, yelling through the phone, "Don't hold back anymore. Let your dad fire Clara's dad tomorrow. See if that misses." Henderson can still act so arrogant then. I had only found out a few days ago that Clara's dad was actually an executive at one of my dad's companies, with quite a high salary. But digging a little deeper, I had discovered some other things. There's no rush on that. If I really did that, my relationship with Clara would be over. No matter how unreasonable her mom is, it's not time for that yet, I insisted, after hanging up. I changed back into my waiter uniform and returned to the restaurant to continue working. That evening, Clara came to pick me up as usual. I was a bit surprised. I thought you wouldn't come today. Your mom didn't say anything to you. Clara stared at me, a barely noticeable flicker of evasion in her eyes. In the end, she shook her head and smiled. No. Did something happen between you and my mom that you're hiding from me? Since she didn't bring it up, I saw no need to badmouth her mother in front of her, so I didn't mention it either. Little did I know. After a month of peace, Mrs. Henderson and Tom were brewing up another big move. I received an invitation on my phone from Mrs. Henderson to attend Clara's birthday party next weekend. It was going to be a banquet at an upscale restaurant in the city, and she had invited Clara's college classmates and many friends. Clara was having a big birthday party and her boyfriend knew nothing about it. That day when Clara came to pick me up, I casually mentioned, "It's your birthday next week, right? How do you want to celebrate?" "It's just a small birthday." I wasn't planning anything special. "I have something that evening, but let's have lunch together to celebrate, okay?" Clara said as she drove. I couldn't see her expression. I said, "Oh," in response. So she was throwing a birthday party, but didn't plan on telling me her boyfriend. I didn't ask any more questions. I'd wait and see what this birthday party was really about. How should I put it? I was actually starting to look forward to this trap they were setting. That week, Tom seemed worried I wouldn't attend the party. He kept texting me, trying to provoke me. Who knows where he got my phone number from? "Liam, you're not too scared to come at the birthday party this weekend, are you?" I guess an ugly duckling will always be an ugly duckling, unable to fit in with high society. At the birthday party, Anti is going to tell all of Clara's friends that I'm her real boyfriend. Seeing that I wasn't responding, he persisted. "All right, don't you have to work at the restaurant on weekends? Just take the day off to come. I'll reimburse you for a day's wages and your transportation costs." As it happened, I also had a big surprise in store for him. I quickly typed out a message telling him to expect me on the weekend. Getting my confirmation, he finally shut up. At noon during my lunch break, I called my friend. "You've arranged everything for me, right? After all, we're holding the birthday party at my dad's hotel. There's some things I can't handle directly. Don't worry, I've got it all under control." My friend assured me confidently. I carefully reminded him once more also when I arrive. "Sure the staff doesn't call me young master, all right?" "All right, all right, all right. You little prince. I guarantee your cover won't be blown," he promised. The day of the birthday party arrived. At lunch with Clara, I couldn't help asking her one more time, "It's your 25th birthday today. Isn't your mom throwing you a big party?" She hesitated for a moment, her eyes shifting. "No," the lunch ended quickly. That evening, as I took the bus to the hotel for the party, I received a text from Clara. "Babe, I'm so sorry, but something important came up and I can't be with you tonight, but I still love you." I didn't reply. After a 20-minute bus ride, I arrived at the hotel. From a distance, I saw Tom, wearing head-to-toe Hermes, greeting me. "Didn't I tell you to take a taxi?" I said I'd reimburse you. Look at you. Too poor to even afford a cab. As soon as he spoke, the group of friends standing next to him burst out laughing behind their hands. Yeah, I'm certainly not like some people who like to put on airs they can't afford," I retorted. I still had plenty of evidence on my phone of him buying fakes and renting designer clothes. Ignoring them, I walked into the hotel wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans. Mrs. Henderson and Clara were inside, greeting guests. One guest joked, "We're drinking to celebrate a birthday this time. Will we be drinking at a wedding next?" Mrs. Henderson beamed. "I hope so. My future son-in-law is here today. His name is Tom Henderson. You'll have to give me your opinion of him later." Hearing that, I looked at Clara's reaction. She just frowned slightly, not denying Tom's status, so she was going along with it. Tom was really her future groom. She knew her mom was going to formally introduce her boyfriend tonight, so she hid the birthday party from me to avoid a conflict between me and her mom. Just then, Tom walked over with his group of friends. "Auntie, Mr. Liam is here." My gaze met Clara's. She was clearly surprised by my appearance and immediately came over. "Liam? Why are you here?" So, you didn't want me to show up and ruin your plans? Or is my status as a waiter not good enough to offer you birthday wishes? I sneered. Liam, that's not what I meant. You're my Rio.